Welcome back to the show, to the second episode of the Returning to Truth podcast. Today, I'm so amazingly grateful to have Tammy Braswell. Tammy is an intuitive channel and energetic guide who helps people reconnect with their inner truth by working with frequency, energy, and vibration. With over 5 decades of experience, she has studied and practiced modalities such as Reiki, pranic healing, quantum touch, and the emotion code alongside deep soul level and field work. In this conversation, we'll explore her spiritual journey, how she works with energy to support healing and transformation, and what it truly means to live in alignment with your highest truth. Tammy, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you.
To begin, I would like to ask you what first opened you up to sensing the energy and the unseen world where you knew it wasn't just what our senses saw, there was something behind the scenes happening in your life.
Well, the memory I have of the first bit of energetic movement was when I was 4. I
Mm,
used to sense this shape in my mouth. It sounds kind of strange, and for years I couldn't articulate it, but I would feel an expansion inside my mouth and this square that was in there. I've come to know that it represents the energy of like Metatron's cube, and it would move, and because my voice is transmission, so it was preparing that frequency.
mm. And I know you, I've seen that you mentioned, is it Archangel Metatron?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
when
I would
he's
love.
at the Metatron cube, the 5 platonic shapes that make up all of creation.
Interesting. So, what was it like being a 4-year-old where you're just coming conscious into this world, but all of these things are happening? Was it overwhelming? Was it emotionally like unbearable at times, or how did you really reconcile with that?
No, it wasn't unusual because it never felt strange. It wasn't something, because when we come in, we have that memory, and
Mm,
it begins to be conditioned out of us, and we
mm,
forget so that we can live in this world and remember. And it's like the ultimate game of hide and seek. We hide that part of ourselves and then we look for it. Um,
yeah.
and so it was never overwhelming. I mean, there were some experiences. I used to feel like things were poking me on the shoulder when I lay in bed, and just sense different things that, as a child, they were a little scary occasionally, but I just always felt like that was normal to me. It was just
Mm,
what was, but I knew not to talk about it. I didn't talk about it with other people.
mm,
When my
yes.
friends were
And
playing with Barbies, they weren't talking about spirits or energy.
yeah, yeah. And was there anyone in your family? I know you mentioned your mom as being like a quite a great role model, defining figure on this journey. Were you able to speak to her about it and express everything that was going on?
Not till I was 13. My parents got
Mm,
divorced and we moved into our own apartment. And her younger brother, who she was close to when they were growing up, and until he passed away when he was just about 20 and I was just going on 4. His death might have been what activated it, because
mm,
my grand my mom's father died on my 17th birthday, and that activated another level of expansion for me. But we were standing in our kitchen dining room area, and this is back in the early 80s, so we had this console with 8-track tapes in it and a
mm,
turntable and stereo, and a song came on, and we used to talk about my uncle here and there, and he came up in conversation, and my mom said, oh, that was his favorite song, and the volume on the stereo rose without us being anywhere near it. And then we felt this sensation in the room, and I felt this something move through me that felt circular, and it was warm and cool at the same time, but loving. And it passed through me and it passed through her at the same time. And then after that, we talked more, but I still didn't know how to articulate a lot of things. that came with time and understanding. It just, things would happen, and it was more open. We'd have conversations. But up until I was 13, I didn't really talk about it with
Mm,
anybody in the scene world. I talked to
mm.
Source. And so I believe that's what deepened my trust and my relationship with Source, all that is itself, because that's the only thing I had to talk to.
Yes, and how were you able to identify that what was coming through was source God, however one chooses to label it, and not something that was, misleading, maybe some, inner voice or something that wasn't truly the essence of source.
Or are you talking my channeling now? What,
Yeah,
how I,
no, when you were
uh,
younger, how were you able to identify and label that what is coming through is source? Was it like a certainty, an inner knowing?
no, I didn't. It didn't feel like it does now. But I grew up in a family that went to church and we talked about God. So I just spoke to God. And
Mm,
talked to plants and things like that and knew that they were part of God. So I was just
mm,
always communicating. People are judgmental. Plants are not judgmental. Animals are not judgmental. So I would
yeah.
just mainly talk to them to release emotional stuff. And I would talk to God to be like, what's going on? Or, just what I understood of speaking with what was perceived as God. Yeah. But
Mm,
I also knew things like when people would say things, especially at church, about how, we're sinners and all that. And I'd sat there as an 8-year old and go, that doesn't sound correct to me. Like, that doesn't make sense because I knew something deeper.
yeah, then it's so amazing that at the age of 8 that you were able to have that knowing that there was something going on and religion like that happened to me 2 years ago at 21, but at 8 it's a whole different story as you're developing, your mind is still growing. Yeah, I would love to understand more about what your beliefs are around religion, how they affect the world, and how do they differ then according to spirituality? Do they have differences?
Well, religion to me was created by man because
Mm,
religions are interesting. When you have one and then somebody doesn't like the rules, they go and do an offshoot that changes them ever so slightly. So
yeah.
source is not in a religion. Man creates that to make himself feel, or him or herself feel better in an understanding, because you don't see source. Even though we can say everything is source, it's not something we can identify. That's why everybody in religion thinks it's an older man sitting on a throne who's moody. He might wake up and not be in a good mood and do something, or you might not get the
Yeah.
best result because he didn't like you that day, and that's not how I see it. So,
Mm,
I just started. I always knew when people were talking that just doesn't make sense at a deeper level. It just didn't feel like it was aligned with what I knew. I wouldn't have said anything because as an 8-year old, no one would have listened to me. I would have been some little kid because I asked my
mm-hmm,
grandma, who I went to church with. And I only went to church with her because I liked to hang out with my grandma. So it was a time I could hang out with my grandma. And I said to her once, I said, Grandma, if God created us, who created God? And from coming from her Baptist background, she said, we don't ask that question. And I thought,
mm,
at 8 years old or around that time, I thought, well, why would I have a question that there's no answer to?
mm.
So
Yeah.
now I understand it better. I'm not sure I can articulate the answer, but I understand the answer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess, when it comes to religion, many people are understanding now that these figures like Jesus Christ or Buddha or in Hindu, Krishna, they talk about the consciousness, the Christ consciousness. And I think these prophets were actually, presenting a greater truth that we completely misunderstood, thinking that we must idolize some type of being, but really we must look inside of us for that true God within us all.
Well, even as a child, here's another example. They would say, Jesus is the Son of God. Okay. And we're all God's children. So we're the same. And they go, but no. Well, how can he be the Son and we're the children? But that doesn't make sense. Even as a
Mm,
child, I feel like this does not make sense. And they
yeah.
would, but what I found in life is people regurgitate, if you will, information that they don't have the meaning behind. Actually, it's something I've been very focused on lately is that I can bring meaning to words that people just generically use or buzzwords that people keep using and they don't really understand energetically what they mean and they just say them. And then it's like, well, then how do you live from something that you truly don't understand? It's just a word that's being used. So there's a lot of
Mm,
common words that I don't speak because to me, like ascension, I used to meet people and they go, well, I want to ascend. And I said, well, to me, ascending, like you're referencing it, is death. So it's
yeah.
not going somewhere. Where are you going?
Yes. Yes, and we obviously had conversation behind the scenes, and you talked about how these terms, this spiritual lingo, has been thrown out there these days, awakening, ascension, and it maybe suits different people because it's just human labels. But how does that create some kind of misunderstanding of what truly is happening?
Well, I think that's the thing about it is I'm in spiritual groups on like say Facebook and people ask, "Well, if I listen to this kind of music, can I still awaken?" Like
Mm,
it's a thing. It's they don't
yeah.
understand it's just a level of consciousness and it's not one time. And it isn't really I think the feeling is that you suddenly feel like you woke up to something. That's where the word awaken came from. And it happens over and over. I wake up some mornings and go, today feels like it's different than any other day. I understand something differently. So it isn't a one shot thing. And I think people sometimes misunderstand what these terms mean. And then there's people out there and we're all at different frequencies. So I'm not judging anybody. I understand we're at different frequencies like radio stations. So somebody's at a station over here and they're talking from their understanding. And then people who are in a similar frequency or station go, oh, that makes sense to me now. But as we expand, then we start to go, wait a minute, that doesn't quite feel like it makes sense anymore. So we start feeling into what does make more sense for us.
Mm. I guess, speaking from my own experiences, when I don't like to say awakened or woke up or became more conscious of my reality, it was a gradual understanding of something is happening behind the scenes. And then I think these labels come about when you start inquiring about it and you're watching different figures that are famous online and on different groups, so all of these terms are being fed to you, so that is really the label that you identify. This is happening to me now, I'm going for a spiritual awakening. So it's just that's what's rarely being fed to us. That's what these ideas have been purported through all the different various famous people. Like I know I've seen that you have met many of them, like a Wayne Dwyer or Michael Beckwith, like these influential figures, which I don't think terms are inherently wrong, but we have to understand fundamentally what is happening to us. We have to feel into it and have a greater knowing beyond just terms.
Well, I don't live by labels or terms. I had a man
Yeah.
on an airplane one time say, well, what religion are you? And I said, well, I'd consider myself more spiritual. And he's like, well, no, I need to know. Are you Catholic? Are you Christian? What are you? I said, why do you need to know that? He said, so I can understand you. And in that moment, I looked at him and I said, you will never understand me from one word. And your perception of that word, what you understand of a word, is not going to represent who I am. So
Mm,
I don't like labels. I don't identify with things. I mean, even Source itself, we've given it its name. When I started channeling it, it said, it is all that is. And I'm like, so what exactly is that? And it's like, all that is. I mean, we give everything names and then say, here's what this name means. And then that's the thing is people use that name in that way. People say, I meditate. Do you know how many variations there are of meditation? That does not tell
Yeah.
me what you're doing when you just say, I meditate. Or, you know, I mean, okay, you have to
Yeah.
explain. I think things need context for understanding. So if I use a word, I will often explain why I'm using the word and what it means. And words are very important because think about we go to school and they teach us spelling, right? And spelling is magic, and spelling has to do with words. But oftentimes people will use a word and not think about what it means. Like I don't use the word grounded. People say you're ground yourself, and everything about grounding is punishment. Oh, you're
Mm.
grounded from, even if you watch movies or TV, kids are grounded. And what is that grounding? They did something that they shouldn't have done, and now they're being punished for it. So I could never, before I realized that, connect the way people go, well, ground with the earth. I just make a connection with it. I don't need to ground myself in it. And so when I understood what that meant to me, I was like, oh, well, that's why I, I can't function from that word.
Mm.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Because,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. Or make
Yeah.
money. We don't make money. The mint makes money. None of us make
Mm.
money. So
Mm.
my mind would always be, well, how can I make something? Because that's how I think. And we've had enough conversations. I think you kind of think that way. Like, I can't make money, so how am I going to make money? Well, you receive it, you create it. That's a different feeling than thinking I make it because I don't make it.
Mm. Yeah. And talk to us about what is your definition of manifestation. I mean, that term's been mainstream and thrown out everywhere. Everyone has a different interpretation of it these days. What would you say, in its truest essence, manifestation is?
In the dictionary, I've looked it up. It means a thought that becomes an experience. And
Mm-hmm.
pretty much anything we experience, we have the thought of first. Even the simplest things in life, getting out of bed, you think before you get out of bed. You don't just roll out of bed. You think, I'm getting out of bed. All normal eating, uh, going to the restroom, everything is you think it, then you go do it. And so that's all manifestation. It's all a form of it. We think it and we experience it. If we think something and nothing comes of it, then we didn't manifest the thought. And people throw it out there as if it's like a thing. So that's interesting you bring it up because it's like this thing over here that I do. And that's we're creator beings. So if we think it, it can come into creation. Same thing as source. I don't think
Mm.
source thinks like we think, but it's constantly creating from, I guess, what we would consider maybe thoughts or consciousness. And these words are still have to be human because source is beyond human vocabulary. But
Yes.
but yeah, and people go, well, I manifested that thing, but I did not manifest this. It's like, how did you not manifest? Well, I wasn't thinking about that. Okay, then let's go to the frequency
Mm.
because what's going to show up is on the station, the frequency you're on. So if it's showing up, it means it's showing you that you're on a certain frequency.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
some
No.
things, I guess people consider it like I didn't think about that thing specifically. No, but you're running on a station, a frequency that invited that level of experience in.
Mm. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah, like if
Yes.
you're listening to a radio station, now they're digital, but when I was a kid, we had to roll the tuner. We had to turn the dial. And when you're on that frequency, if it's a country station, say, you're not going to get rock on it because you're on the country station. So you have to
Mm.
change the station. And you know that you're going to get country music from that station. So if somebody is on a certain frequency and their life is showing them things, it's showing them the frequency they're on.
Mm. And how can you give people advice who, Maybe for instance, I've personally experienced where I've tried a lot of visualization, all the techniques that we're told to do, affirmations, incantations, and it seems that they're not able to tune the fork to the right frequency which they're looking for in their life, and they feel stuck. And maybe they start to, give up on this whole spiritual stuff or manifestation. They think, I'm going to go back to how I lived my life before.
But you can't unknow what you know. Here's the thing: is once you know it, you can't unknow it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
um, so where you're leading to is like, what can you do? Well, like I said, words. I look at everything as frequency. There's a high
Mm,
and low, or a low and a high frequency, and you have a spectrum of frequencies that you access, and you can choose which one you want to be on, even though you might think you can't. Is that if you're in a low frequency, you tell it by your feelings, by your emotions. If you're feeling in a low place, then you're likely to be on a lower frequency station. So you're going to see things that will support the way you're feeling. And when you're on a higher frequency, then they're going to support what you're feeling there. And but recognizing that there's a spectrum of frequency, because sometimes people think, well, I'm just going to be positive and only think these kinds of thoughts up here, but we still have lower frequency energy running around in our field, and the densest frequency is the one that it goes to first. I came to understand this many years ago, that if you're running a lower frequency, whatever the lowest point is what's going to reveal itself until you recognize that that's there. Most people try to cover it over it, and then they're like, oh, I'm just being positive, and they ignore the
mm,
lower. But if you identify it, then one, you're now aware of it, so it's not like a stream in the background. And so you can start to notice, well, what frequency am I on more than anything else? And be honest, because energy, you can't lie to energy. You can't,
mm,
what's really going on inside of you, the way you feel and everything, you can't lie to energy. It's going to
mm,
show up reflective of that.
mm. Yes. And I'd really love for you to explain and really get to the crux of it. Someone who's watching and they've never heard of channeling, or maybe they've heard of it and they have some kind of assumption of what it is. What is channeling? What is the difference between channeling, being a medium, being a psychic? And I know, for instance, when I came across channeling, I had no idea what was happening. The person was Bashar for me. And you start to understand that they're tapping into a different side of their consciousness by like adjusting your frequency like very quickly in a way. And then Bashar went and got brain scans, and it showed like how he was able to enter a brainwave state that no human could do naturally. So clearly something was happening that science can't actually measure, because it's divine and science can't measure divine. For everyone watching, what is channeling?
Well, look at the term, it's a channel. You're tuning into a frequency, a channel. Same thing as a station. And we're all channels. There are four things that we all are that people like to think that makes them different, but we're all empathic, we're all healers, we're all channels, and we're all intuitive. We're set up that way so we can exist in this world. To what degree you are any of those is how much you've allowed them to flow more easily, or have tuned into them. So channeling to me is just tuning into a frequency to receive information that isn't from the conscious mind. And the people who channel different beings different ways are the different frequencies they're able to tap into.
Mm,
So I channel all it is, and it took two other groups of energies to prepare me for the frequency that sort of the level of source that I can touch.
mm.
And a medium talks to dead people.
Yes.
A medium, dead people, and I'm a medium too, because of the spectrum of all of the channeling. Dead people come and visit me and talk to me and come through for people I'm talking to. So
Yeah.
they're not my unseen being of choice. Let's just put it that way. They're
Yeah.
they're lower frequency, but I'm open to the full spectrum. Psychics are just intuitives. That I don't know where that term came from. I don't call myself a psychic, but technically I am a
Mm.
psychic. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just I've cultivated it since childhood, and so when I tune into something, I I allow whatever wants to come through to come through.
Mm. Yeah. So could you explain, what it feels like in a physical, psychological sense? Like when you're constantly channeling, is there something, you talked about, is there a voice? Is there a feeling that you're getting, you're sensing something?
It's actually a lot of different ways. Sometimes I see images, like little pictures, and hear, and it's usually my voice. It's not an unusual voice. It's just my voice speaking in my head, but it's telling me things that are of a higher nature. And that makes a difference too. I know a lot of people will go, "Well, my guides told me that's bad or I shouldn't do that." And I don't believe anything that's of a higher nature would needs to tell you anything like that. Source, all
Mm.
that is never there's no fear-based conversation with it. It's very matter of fact. It's very loving in all that it says. Does everybody like what it says? No, because it puts the free will choice on the person. Like, what do you want to experience? Why do you want to experience it? But it's always high feeling in nature. And the interesting thing is, until I really started channeling the way I do, I did not realize how much we think. I know we make jokes about people need to think before it comes out their mouth, but how much we think before the words come out of our mouth.
Mm.
When I'm in flow, and I'm in flow right now because I like don't have that connection anymore. It just it just flows. There's no thought and then words. It's just like a stream.
Mm. Yeah, it's fascinating. Uh, and I guess, was there a point where, a lot of, in the spiritual terms, they talk about, the ego, and then they talk about the higher self, and it's the battle between the ego and the higher self. Was there having to do unpacking in your journey to really get rid of and transcend all the negative patterns of your human self to allow that pure divine source to come through, or was it just always pure and always there available?
Well, how I view it is by frequency. If we say positive,
Mm.
negative, good, bad, right or wrong, those are opinions. They're
Yes.
not how energy flows. Energy really has no meaning except that which we give it. So, all of a sudden, I lost the question that you were asking. Wait, what was it again? What was flowing through? Sometimes that happens. Like, miss,
Yeah. Um,
or the answer doesn't want to be shared. Wait a minute. What were you saying? Do it again. Ask me again.
I was saying that, was there a point in time where, was the channel always pure, or was there a point where you had to unpack your human self, the patterns of the ego, the negative side that we all, well, you don't like to use the term negative, but our human side that we all have from our life experiences, to allow that channel to come through purely without it being interfered or intervened by any negative human patterns?
Well, I still have had the conditioning, which to me is the
Mm.
lower experience, and the emotional attachments that weren't fully processed through. So I've done that. And the ego, I received divine guidance on that. Is it's built to show us, or to have be the drive and the passion. Because if we're just coming from an energetic place, like our soul is all good all the time. I'm going to use good, but it's it's
Yeah.
love all the time. It doesn't go into heavy places. People put things on the soul that the soul does not do or does not experience. It experiences life through us in the our senses, our emotions, our thoughts, and the contrast, the choices that we make. And so our ego is not a mistake. And a lot of people get into the spiritual stuff and they're like, you got to get rid of it. It's not something that you get rid of. You would want to just sit and do nothing if you didn't have that aspect of you, because it is what says, I love doing this. It's the like doing part of you. And so you can have it where, and it's still not that, it's just your conditioning telling you why you can't do things. That's what people pin on the ego. Well, it tries to hold you back. I can tell you that when you start to understand yourself better and open up and are not caught on all those lower things, your ego, I just call it the human, will play along with you. It'll do whatever you want it to do. Yes, does mine still go, hey, wait, are we sure we want to do that? And I'm like, yeah, think of all these other times that we've done. And they'll go, oh, okay, let's go. It doesn't argue with me. It's not that. So what I think a lot of these teachings are fear-based. They have you in a level of fear of allowing yourself to open up to the divine part of you, to allow everything to come in and flow. That is who you are. When you die, all this other stuff disappears and you're that. It's primarily who you are. So it's just when I opened up, it was letting go of like censoring what was coming through, of being resistant to it, questioning it. And that took time. It was like I would go to be with a client and I would think, I'm not feeling anything about this session. Will anything come through? And all it is would just go, have I ever let you down? I'm like, no. So all this wonderful stuff would come through. And I'm like, okay, see, there's proof. I don't need proof of anything, but it was just, it always built that, see, you question it and then it works out. So why are you questioning it? Then I got to a place where, okay, I don't question it.
Yes. And if someone listening is going through moments of doubt, or they're living in fear or shame or lower frequencies, how are they able practically to shift out of that, to, I guess, raise their vibrational frequency while being aware of their conditioning and being able to shift it into a higher place?
That's one of those like little bit of nuanced questions that I don't know if
Yeah.
there's one answer for it. It's starting to inquire with yourself. Is this thing true? Does this really feel true for me? Because our conditioning is all the stuff that said this is how you have to live within the confines of what's acceptable. But it's not necessarily true for us. That's like when I was a little kid and the pastor of the church said something and I'm like, yeah, that does not make sense. Like,
Yes.
no, I'm not going to believe that, because inside I knew. But what's happened is we don't listen to our inner knowing. We listen to everything outside. And the world is a very noisy place. And so it's starting to listen to what's going on inside. And how do you feel when this experience is happening? Does it feel true? Does it feel not true? Where are you at? So, and everybody, depending on their frequency, it's going to feel differently and feel a little more constricted if they're in a lower frequency and more expansive in a higher frequency. But one thing, like I mentioned earlier, words. Watch how you're speaking. Pay attention to the words you use. The first ones that come out of your mouth are going to start to show you where you're at.
Yes. And I think this really illustrates and illuminates the idea of this awareness that we all are, that lives through us, and being able to be aware of the awareness, be one with the awareness, and be able to consciously live your life where you can observe every part of yourself that comes through, your thoughts, your emotions, because these are all just constructs that are part of our human self. So by, putting your awareness and your observation on these ideas, it almost, like, it kind of dissipates by watching it. But when they unconsciously come through, it's just a constant battle, like, what is happening to me? Would you agree with that? Having shining awareness on our patterns is gonna alleviate a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, what we don't pay attention to, we don't know is there. It's like a computer. I'm not a tech person that much, and there's programs running in the background that keep the computer going, but some of them get glitchy or are older and they don't work as well with updates and things like that. So then the computer has issues. So we grow up in whatever environment that says how we're supposed to be, what we should be thinking, how we should act, and then that becomes our belief system. And our thoughts are, when a thought comes up, it's put against that belief system that's built in, and we can change our beliefs, but it's put against the belief system, and then it's like, is it? I'll use terms right or wrong. Is it good or bad? It's like an opinion, although our subconscious that holds that doesn't isn't opinionated. It just takes in the information and stores it and says, okay, we function from this program. And when you start to become aware, like, wait a minute, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? Well, who started doing that? Who told me to do that? And then you start noticing and you decide, do I want to do that? And then you start
Mm.
thinking differently. If you want to change, and I would say just pick one thing at a time. If you attempt too many, it's confusing. But say there's something you want to experience in life differently. Write down what that thing is that you are not really content with the way it is. And then write the way that you want it to be on the other side. Draw a little line and put, like, on the left hand side the I don't want this anymore, and write on the right hand side what it would be if it was what you want it to be, and carry that around. And every time you go into the one that you don't want, flip it into the one that you do want. And I say carry it around so that you don't have to stop and go, what was that? What did I put on that paper? You know it. And then as you do that, the one that you don't want will start to soften and
Mm.
lose its potency, and the new one will become, that's just changing a habit, or directing your energy into what you want more, but recognizing that the other exists. Because like I said, people get into the positive stuff and they just don't want to look at anything else. The rest of it isn't there. Well, it's there. So if you recognize your power, part of your power is in seeing that both sides exist at the same time, the high and the low
Mm.
frequency. Which one do you want to play in? Your soul doesn't consider either one right or wrong, good or bad. It's not opinionated or judgmental like humans. It's like, okay, see where that experience takes you. And
Yes.
we're here for the experience. Life is meant to be a playground. And I like to use
Hmm.
that reference because when we're little kids and we go out on the playground, we get all excited about, or at least I did, get all excited about all the different equipment. There's the swings and the slide and the merry-go-round and the balls you can play kickball with and the jump rope, and we get excited. And life is like that. It's, what do you want to play with today? What do you want to have
Mm.
fun with today? It's like a buffet. Try the different foods. If you don't like it, don't eat it again. If you do like it, have more.
Yes. And talk to us about, one of the greatest questions as a human being is what is the meaning of our life? What is our purpose? And people can ponder that to the day they die, and yet they don't realize it can be the most ordinary moment. Yeah, for people who, maybe are struggling or they don't enjoy their job, they wake up every day, everything seems monotonous, rinse and repeat. They have existential crises because they don't know what life is all about. How can people really incorporate meaning into the ordinary? Because the ordinary is really extraordinary if we change the way we look at things. As Wayne Dwyer said, change the way we look at things, what we look at changes. So, yeah, talk to us about that.
Well, everything's a perspective. How are you looking at it? Because
Hmm.
we, again, meaning to everything. Nothing has a meaning because two people can look at the same thing and feel differently about it. So it can't be the thing itself, or then we'd all see it exactly the same way. And I've come to know that we all have one purpose. And what comes off of that purpose is the expression of it. And our purpose is to express and experience our divinity through our human. And so that is for us to, in everything we do, again, our conditioning comes into this, but is to do it from a place of love and to do it from a place that feels really connected within us. That's like when you find your passion, that is what people think is their purpose. Your purpose is to express through things you're passionate about. So when you find something you love, and it could be the smallest thing, if you are enjoying that moment and you feel fully connected in yourself, you're living in your purpose in that moment. And when you start to string more of those moments together, then it feels different in life. But that's what it is. And people search for something that all it is explained to me like perfection. You can't achieve what you already are. Every experience, although we wouldn't say it is perfect in that moment. We are already perfect. You can't become something you already are. So we're always striving to be something that already exists for us. And we've just been told that it's something now we have to achieve outside of ourselves.
Yes. And how can people recognize that infinite perfection within them when they've been conditioned to look outside of them, that externally, if I obtain more things, then I'm going to feel more hope. And then they realize how the fleeting nature of things and is really not what our true purpose is. Is it inherently bad that we have external desires, or is it a part of our human experience? But how do we balance that contrast with the external purpose, I like to call it, and the internal purpose, which is the greatest purpose?
Well, remember, our purpose is to experience and express ourselves in our divinity through the human. So the external part of that is the expression. It'll never be an external purpose. It'll be the expression of our internal purpose, our divine purpose. So however you're experiencing life, and even if somebody dislikes something and they start to go, okay, I'm going to love myself in every moment of this. I may not love this, but I'm going to love me, because we're not really taught to love ourselves completely. That's what I've come to know is our divine power, is when you can stand in the love of yourself and every experience you've had, every emotion you felt, everything about yourself, and still love yourself and accept yourself. That's extremely powerful. And you start finding that place in you that can do that, it'll grow. Because what happens is it gets shut down by all the external stuff. So when you find it and you nurture it, it will grow. And it doesn't take a long time to grow, because when you connect with it, it's who you are, it will grow. So in those moments, go, okay, you know what? This is what's going on. But I love myself anyway. I love myself in this because I'm divine. I'm an extension of Source, God, all it is, whatever you want to call it. I'm an extension of that itself. And I'm perfect in every moment. And every moment is perfect. Even if it's considered a crappy moment, it's still perfect, because in it, you're experiencing life. And so, you just start doing little things like that. It might sound not that easy for some people, but just a glimmer, or a little spark of it, and just let that grow like it's a little plant. You could even get some
Yeah.
dirt, put something in it, and say, here's my love for myself. And I'm going to put a seed and call it your love for yourself, and nurture it and watch it grow, and imagine that that's what's happening inside you as well.
Yes, and I love this idea. There's this one teacher that I listen to. I don't know if you've heard of Kabbalah,
No,
and
I'm not.
yes, it's just like it's a mysticism that comes from Judaism, and this one
Oh,
teacher based
okay, I would probably say Kabbalah.
Kabbalah. Yeah, 'cause sorry,
Okay.
it's the Australian accent. Yeah.
No, no, I haven't studied it. I know Madonna likes it, but that's about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's this teacher called David Guillaume, and I learned a lot from him. And he basically said his greatest mantra was, when things are happening in your life that seem to be negative, pause. What a pleasure. Thank the creator, thank the source for everything that is brought to you, because in that moment, it is never inherently bad. It's there to show you something about yourself, to expand your soul, to become greater. And that is what us as society we need to recognize more. With so many of us, we're so conditioned to be reactive, to hold on, to cling to things. I know in Buddhism they obviously talk about detachment, not grasping onto different things that are happening in your life. You have to learn to detach and be free spirited and just to love every moment.
Well, detaching is again is that sense that not we've been taught to shame, blame ourselves, and it's not doing that. Not judging. So a judgment is an opinion that that was right or wrong, good or bad. So if you just look at it and go, that was an experience. Did I like that experience? Am I going to do that again? You get the choice of deciding. That's where that contrast of the physical world comes into play. Like it's, do you like this or do you like this? Or do you not like this? And you go, okay, I didn't really enjoy that. So I'm not going to do that again. I don't believe in lessons. We don't learn lessons. We already have built into us and we're connected to all that we really need and want energetically. So there's nothing we have to learn. It's a memory and a resonance of things. So
Mm.
it's here to say, to me, the outer world is not a lesson. It's not karma, like after you or anything. It's looking at what station are you on. You know you're on the country station. I'm not a big country song person, sorry, but I just always
Yeah.
pick that. When you're listening to the country station, you're gonna get country music. So when you're getting sick circumstances in your life, you're like, okay, I'm on the station of these things showing up. So what am I thinking, believing, feeling that has me on this station? And then you start shifting that. And, again, in this short period of time, it's not that easy to just say, just do this one thing. It's about feeling into it. That's how I do things is I feel into what does this person have in their energy that is likely unprocessed. We have a lot of unprocessed emotional stuff. And so
Mm.
it comes out to show us, are you ready to process this yet?
Yeah. And that's you made a great point that once again it's that term lesson that's really like a linguistic convenience for really the concept of remembrance, returning to that truth of who we are. Lesson is just like uses as humans we like to see life as like a hierarchical thing and
School.
we're gonna school like Dolores Cannon, she talks about Earth as like a school and we're students here to learn, which is
Well, I
okay,
see it
but
more not as a
yeah.
school, but as a place for experiences. Again, if we
Yes.
take out that it's we're learning, we're just having experiences. Our soul comes here to have experiences because it's eternal. And what does an eternal thing do? Source keeps creating. It creates who knows what is out there creating, honestly. I mean, we don't know. It could pop out a planet every day. We don't know what it's doing out there. But it's expansive. Expansion becomes more of something. So we're here to experience, and our soul is an extension of source, individuated. That source gave the ability to then come into this human experience and see what happens because the human chooses. And source, to me, even though it has an idea of what could happen, it still waits to see what the human chooses. It doesn't know for absolute which choice we'll make. So life is this playground. Our soul says, I come back because it's more experiences in different time periods, in different bodies, in different nationalities, in different places. Let's see how life goes when you're here. And that's it. People put this ominous thing on life. And it's really just about, going to the playground of the physical and seeing what can you do? What can you taste? What can you smell? What can you look at that you can't do the same way energetically?
Yes, and it's fascinating because you talk about it in such a way where I get mixed up for the as long as we could measure spirituality was about reaching this peak, this enlightenment, how one would talk about it, and once you reach enlightenment, you don't come back. But if we're always pure and it's about recognizing that purity, then what is the meaning of the human incarnation if it's not about reaching a certain point? Why would we have to keep coming back if we are extensions of God? Why would God need to repeat our own our own experiences as a human?
Because again, source itself creates, and it does not see anything that the human sees as good or bad. The only reason you're like, oh, why do we have to do this again? Because there's a part of it that you're judging as you don't like it and don't want to do it. Soul and source don't see it that way. Just another experience. And then it comes and it does it again in a different time, a different place, a different body, we experience it differently in different, wherever you are. And so that's all it is let's see what you experience instead of thinking it has to be some heavy thing we have it like it's a force thing. Our soul is perfect. A lot of people will say, well, our soul has to grow. I don't believe our soul has to grow. It is what it is, but through us it expands. Growth and expansion are not exactly the same thing. Expansion is about becoming more and widening the view. So it just becomes more and experiences more over and over and over. If you like to eat something, do you eat it repeatedly?
Mm.
Okay, do you sit there and go, do I have to eat this again?
No.
Do I have to do this again? No, you do it because you enjoy it. So what was if source and our soul, being an extension of source, individuated and unique in itself, just like to do it because they literally just enjoy it? That the human
Mm.
mind goes, I have to have a reason. That is the reason. Anything you do in life, and I'm sure there are things you do in life repeatedly because you enjoy them.
Mm. So then, you know, now I understand it. So would you say that these terms like enlightenment or nirvana is just the greatest remembrance of your soul?
I would say what that is when we live truly in our divinity without the conditioning.
Mm.
Then we're in nirvana. We're in nirvana. And yeah, and that's the perfection. And that's where we're headed, is the heaviness is lessening. We've lived in this heavy contrast. We can have contrast where we just go, I like the smell of a rose and I like the smell of a daisy, I don't know. And then you just say, maybe I like the rose a little more than the daisy, but they're both nice. We live in a world where we're like, you really like this or this really sucks. And we're moving into a place where no, we live in that perfection and that divine part of ourself where it's all wonderful, where we remember it's all wonderful all the time. And I don't normally
Yeah.
talk from time either because I
Yeah.
don't really live in time like most people do, but
Yeah. Yes. Talk to us about that. I live in a household of people and I hear, people watching the news, and the world in a physical sense isn't in a great place. There's a lot of evil, low vibrational stuff taking place. And when all the people around you are speaking through their conditioning of the world is horrible, how can we change this? Everything is bad, bad, bad. Do you see through that lens of negativity, or do you see that the world is always in a good place?
I recognize what's happening. I know I'm not blinded to it. I don't watch the news.
Mm.
I recognize, but I hold the knowing that we are higher than that and that we are processing through what has been repeated for a very long time. That's what the enlightenment. Well, actually, I believe that we are enlightened every time we become awake, if you will. I'm not going to say it that way, but when we come to
Yeah.
know something, I do. Words slip out that everybody uses all the time, but they're not really words I use. Um, so let's say I see it like this: that something is activated in you. I see it like a switchboard of light switches. And when you're in a frequency that's open enough for that switch to come on, it can be flipped on. I do a lot of activations in what I offer. And I turn on in you what's already there. It's nothing new, it's in there. but you haven't had access to it because of the frequency you've been in. It's like turning up the frequency and the band gets wider. And then when that comes on, it's almost like a light's turned on. So couldn't that be you're now more enlightened because the light was turned on? So people
Mm.
take these words and make them into something out here. And, everything has its purpose. And what I've come to know is like all the stuff that happens that's horrific to us, when it happens, what do people do? They come together in love. They no longer see gender or preferences or colors or anything. And when we can live in that place of love, just because, none of those experiences will ever have to happen again. They just remind us, do you remember this love? Okay, hold on to it. And then we forget it again. And then something else happens and we're like, oh, I love everybody. I'm going to help everybody. I'm here for everybody. And then a couple weeks later, after it's over, they go back to their routine and their conditioning. So when we can hold those places and live from that love all the time, there will not be the things that you see in the world.
Yes, and I truly believe, and I can't express to you enough, Tammy, how on my journey of understanding and remembering my truth, to me, the greatest thing is unconditional love, holding people in the highest light, having no judgment for all of us are acting, or most of us are acting from a conditioned, limited version of ourselves. So that is, we're all pure. And that is, I agree, we change the world through love. But there are, you could say, I'd love for you to talk more about, evil people, or maybe not evil souls, because souls are pure, but how we are misguided. We grew up in a place where we're taught to kill or do evil stuff. The world will never change. Well, it's hard for everyone to recognize the idea of love. So, how do we start as an individual to shift the world around us? Do we have to love ourselves first before we can love others? And it starts with a rippling effect.
Yes, you must love yourself first. You cannot give to someone else that which you don't have. If somebody needed a shirt and you weren't wearing a shirt, you couldn't give them a shirt, right?
Yeah.
So you can't give that which you have to understand how to love and accept yourself before you can do that for someone else. Because and we talk about everybody's an extension of us and we're all one. I'd like to actually, because of all that is, and it's calling itself that, we are part of the allness, not just the oneness, but allness, everything. I was looking outside at a tree and a squirrel. They're part of the allness, but they're not me. They're a squirrel in a tree. But energetically, we're similar. But that's the world is made up of all these different frequencies and consciousnesses, and so we're part of all of it. And when you can just start to feel one, love for yourself, and that is, it'll be easier to love everybody else once you love yourself. We think it's easier to love someone else, but or love ourselves, or than it is to really look at ourselves, because, or that came out kind of clunky there, but we to really see every part of ourselves and love ourselves. Most people have regrets and conditioning. They don't think that they're good enough. We're born worthy, more than enough, not even just good enough. We are divine. And so that never goes away. It's always there. But conditioning has us thinking that we're less than, and that we're always trying to reach something to become something better. And so when you can look at yourself and say, I don't just say unconditional love, because I don't think most humans know how to do that, but to really feel into divine unconditional love, the kind of love that Source has, that
Mm.
there's nothing you could say or do that Source will ever stop loving you.
Yes. Yes.
Any So when you can love yourself that same way, and that's a process, because it's undoing a lot of what you've been conditioned into, and then that's easier to love other people. Now here's the thing. I love everybody. Do I like everything everyone does? Is it my preference to participate in it? No. But I love everyone. We all return to the same place. There is not a lower place that we're going to end up. We all return back to source energy. But think about all these people that show up. I do believe that their soul said it would play a part, to be part of something. And we may say, oh, that's a horrible person, but they're playing a part. And if they're really horrible, then they're playing it very, very well. And they're helping us to see things differently. You know, if you can love yourself first, and then you can love the person you dislike the most, well, life gets a lot easier after that, because
Mm.
you know,
Yes.
I mean, that would be the challenge. I met somebody once when I was doing a channeling event, and the woman said, well, you know, I live in love, I love everybody, but there's one person at work who's a real pain, and they irritate me. And I channeled that. Well, you're asking for the next level of this loving being you want to be. They're the one who's going to help you become that.
Mm. So everyone is just a reflection of what you need to shift within yourself.
Well, it's their invitations of what do you want to experience and at what level.
Mm.
And then they become our relatives and they're close to us because they're really in our face about what it is that we wanted to really experience more of.
Mm. Yeah, talk to us about this idea of soul contracts and coming to this life with certain people like family members. I know you said that you've lived many lives with your mother. When people are on the journey and maybe they find that they're clashing, entering into that spiritual conscious journey, and then maybe people outside of you which are reflecting to you something, but you can't recognize it, so it puts you in a negative frequency. You may not be showing the best version of yourself to that person. What is that all about? How can people navigate through, having family members or people close to them? We talk about love, unconditional divine love and compassion, but you could also have that from a distance where you choose to not have people in your vortex of life.
Yeah, I've had family members come and go. I've had friends come and go because I look at it like, okay, there's a resonance in the frequency. We're on a similar station. So why are we on a similar station? And we can choose to then focus on ourselves and what we're experiencing, because if you notice, the people that are close to you are going to be acting in similar ways to what you've been. And if you want to change that, then you start being different. And you'll either notice that things get better with the person or they just aren't in your space as much. Like life changes to accommodate you becoming a different frequency and on a different station. If it's too different, you won't even be in the same space together. But
Mm.
oftentimes we cling to people even when we know that it's not a healthy relationship because we're afraid to let
Mm.
go. So you have
Yes.
to be in a place that's willing to let it go. Um, I used to get the divine message of to be willing to let go of everything, and I'd be like, well, I can't let go. I don't know who's going to disappear in my life. I don't know what that means. And when I finally did it, I saw what happened. But you have to get to a place where, I don't want to say have to, it's getting to a place where you're willing to watch things move away and you be okay with that. And
Mm.
most people just are afraid to see what happens. It's too unknown. And then they cling to the stuff and they don't want things to change. And so
Yeah.
see change, you have to be willing to let change happen. And the thing is, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, and the idea of karma, does this exist? Do things keep repeating if you don't take the right path or do the right thing? Is that what you're talking about now? If you don't let go and you're coming from the conditioned self, is it just going to repeat in a different like form?
Well, that's cause and effect. We're the cause, life is the effect. And I
Mm.
forgot to comment on your soul contracts. So we'll hold cause and effect over here. But so what I believe our soul does is there are many possible life paths we can take. As a human, we make those choices, and our soul does pick, family members, what circumstances you're going to come in. But then there's all these different paths and all these other souls. I don't believe in contracts. Contracts sounds too locked in.
Formal.
They're just
Yeah.
agreements.
Yeah.
Let's say you had some friends and you said, "Hey, if my human goes down this path, would you be willing to interact with them in this way, even if it's a way the human might not like?" And it doesn't have to say that, but as the human, we might. And it says, "Yeah, I'll show up for that path if they choose it." And I don't believe there's anything destined, set in stone, have tos. It could be that there's multiple paths. One path has you not married, one path has you married, path has you have like 5 children, you don't have any children. It's which one the human makes a choice on, and then that one's carried out till you choose and you can go off somewhere else. We like to, as humans, think that it's locked in some way, and there's no need for it to be locked in. It really
Mm.
isn't. And so that's my thought on contracts. I don't believe in them. I believe there's agreements. I believe that, there's many paths we can take. And then, okay, now what was the other one? Cause and effect, karma.
Yes.
So to me, most people think karma's not a good thing either, because they'll be like, "Oh, karma's a bitch," or, "Oh, they're going to get their karma." And it always sounds like they're not going to like it. It's cause
Yeah.
and effect. Whatever you put out comes back. And I don't believe our soul, to me, brings experiences, like desires for experiences from other times, other other lives, to say, "You know what? Now we're in this life. Let's put this in front of you and see what you do with it." Instead of thinking it's something done to you or you must go through this. I've had things repeat, and then I stop and go, "Okay, what is the pattern here?" Because I'm the common denominator. So what is the pattern showing me? And then I'm like, "Okay, I feel into whatever that pattern is, and
Mm.
then decide what I want to do with it." Because
Yes.
we get to choose. People really look at this as like, or even the spiritual conditioning is like things are done to us. We have free will choice. And I was just talking about this today. It's all the time. It's kind of like manifesting. If it's working and I like it, then I'm doing it. If I don't like it, what's it mean? So it's the same thing with, all this other stuff, is that it's all the time. Free will choice. You get to choose. Nothing chooses for you through the human experience. Source doesn't. I see source having a certain role and our soul having a certain role. Our soul puts experiences in front of us and says, "Let's see how you go through this one," just for
Mm.
the experience of it. And source says, "Here's some options of how you can experience it." But
Mm.
neither flat out decide you must do anything.
Mm.
Humans like to think that. Source, all it is, chooses nothing for us. It just lays out options. It's like, "Do you like this or do you like this?" Well, okay. If you like more of this, you can have more of this. And even if you don't realize that you don't like this a lot, but that's what you focus on, you get more of it until you say, "I don't want that anymore."
Yeah. So you don't believe in that we have past life karma or stuff we bring in from other lives.
Our soul brings energies, but only to have an experience in another lifetime, because you're different. Say you were alive in the 1300s, being alive in the 2000s, you're gonna have a different experience, even of the same situation.
Mm.
So it can say, "Let's see how you move through this." But I believe our soul has like this, when it feels full and complete with something, it doesn't ask you to repeat it,
Mm.
because it got the fullness. And I believe most
Mm.
of the time what we experience again is we didn't go through it all the way. We like
Yeah.
shut off the emotion. We stunted the experience. So it says, well, let's get you through it all the way. But there's no
Mm.
force to it. You don't have to. So you go through it like 100 times. Okay. I mean, our soul's eternal. What else has it got to do?
Mm.
You know?
Y- Yeah, and this is something I know off air I was asking you about. Often I think about if our soul's eternal and we keep coming back to the human experience, for someone who sees it just like a prison and there's no end to it all, how can we reconcile this idea that what is the meaning if it's just a rinse and repeat for eternity?
But that's what I said. It's like a playground. When you were a child, did you like to play on the playground?
Yes,
Okay, did you go, this sucks. I'm never going back to the playground. I don't want to go play on the playground. Most kids
maybe at a
don't say
point.
that.
Yeah,
We wait for the playground. And so that's what our soul does. It
yeah.
waits for the playground. So let's see what the human form does through the five senses, emotions, thoughts, and what's available. And that's all it is. People have to have, even if if the reason isn't heavy enough, is doesn't it feel heavy to go, this is a prison that we must come to? Okay,
Yeah.
that's the heavy conditioning. And what happens if you just go, heck, my soul just likes playing here and it's going to come back? Okay.
Mm. But are there
Again, it's
souls?
all in the perspective.
Yes, yes. Are there souls that don't come back? They stay and they become guides or something in this, or everyone.
I actually don't believe in guides and all of that any longer because they're just a frequency of source. And they're a frequency that we tap into that makes us feel comfortable. Like people have to have form to things. So if you think it's a guide, it's this thing that might be hanging out around you and feel more comfortable. Or even angels. They're all just a different frequency people tune into that they can
Mm,
give more of a face to, just like God being an old man sitting on a throne. Source doesn't have form. It does where its form. The
mm,
microphone is its form. It's all energy. But people need to put a face on things. So it doesn't have a face. So then we have guides and we have all these things that are just different frequency levels that people can tune into and feel like they can be comfortable enough to connect with something.
mm. Okay, that's very fascinating. So if someone is praying or asking for guidance, is it the wrong thing to do, or is is it the way they're looking at it?
Well, there's a way to invite that in.
Yes.
If you're beseeching something like you're begging or think that you are lesser than, you're missing the point of being divine. And source responds through messages, through speaking to you, not generally in a booming voice, just in your own voice. But it's always loving. It's never scary. It's never, don't do this or frightening. If it feels kind of frightening or upsetting or ominous, then it's not source. It's
Mm,
human part of fear. Um, but yeah, you can. I don't pray in the sense of people pray. I do things like where you're grateful or you're appreciative. I like appreciation. I like the frequency of appreciation better. If you're appreciative, even before seeing a result. So it's like, thank you, for my health, even if you feel crappy that day. Thank you for the my feet that I can walk on, my
mm,
hands that pick things up. We forget all that stuff. We don't pay attention to any of that until something hurts. Then we start to go, why is that hurting? Did you ever notice it when it wasn't hurting?
mm,
Do you just notice like your feet take you around all the time until your foot hurts?
mm.
We're not
Yeah.
taught to do any of this or pay attention to any of this. And it's like
Yeah.
simpler things. Mhm.
Yeah. And I'd love to ask you, if you were to die tomorrow, what would be the last message that you would leave to the world?
Huh. If I died tomorrow. Well, I'm not I welcome it. I'm okay with it. Um, it would be to tune into to your inner knowing, your inner truth. There are different kinds of truth. There's source truth, and then there's our truth, and our truth changes because what I
Mm,
believed was true before, and I get a higher understanding, then that truth changes. So it's tune into what feels aligned for you or from the highest alignment, because anything we're tuned into we're aligned with. So what is the highest experience you want to have in this moment, and then love yourself through all experiences,
mm,
ones that feel really good and the ones that don't.
yes. Amazing. Well, I really do thank you so much, Tammy, for this conversation. It is short lived. I could speak about it for infinity. And we definitely have to have another conversation sometime if you are open to it.
Of course, I love talking about this.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I've
very
gotten to a
appreciative.
place
Yeah.
where it's deep within me. Many years
Yeah.
ago, even though I knew things, I started listening to others, and then I would reference, oh, this person said this and this person, and at this point in life, what I speak is because I know it in every cell of my body, and I know it because of my connection with source, with all that is, and I am most confident in it. And it may not be for everybody, but I think having the opportunity to have different perspectives, you can go, maybe that does resonate. I'll feel into it a little more. Or
Mm,
maybe later on, a month from now or a year from now, you go, you know what, that thing I heard, that makes sense to me now.
yes, most definitely. And if this video podcast can inspire at least one person to adopt that and live by that, and, eventually it spreads, I think that is the goal of our souls to, in a way, stand united in the same truth because we are all one with each other. But yeah, thank you so much, Tammy. I'm very
Thank you.
grateful. If anyone wants to check you out or you have any things to plug, is there anywhere where people can come and see you?
Well, my website's always the place you'll find everything about me and that I'm currently offering. So it's by vibration
Yes.
dot com, and you can find me there. That's where I'm
That will
at.
be in the bio for everybody who is interested. Thank you so much, Tammy. It was amazing to speak to you, and we definitely have to do it again.